Hello and welcome to Goosepoop's Creator Coop. We've got a pretty good show for you tonight. A lot of exciting things to talk about. But before we do that, I want to have our fantastic guests introduce themselves. So let's start with RP.
Yeah, hi. I'm RP. I'm lead designer at Fari RPGs. We make tabletop games. I call my games rules bright and action packed, and that's pretty much what I do. So super happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
So glad to have you. Andrea.
And yeah, my name is Andreja, and I'm the owner of PrintNPlay Games, uh, lead game designer as well. We make tabletop RPGs, but we mainly focus on all kinds of printable products. So that involves dice rolling games, micro RPGs, miniature games, but all in the printable format where you get a PDF and you can print the game from the comfort of your home.
Love it. And we'll hear a little bit more about all of that as we go through. And Jordan is going to start us out.
Yeah, so I guess we'll start with some questions. So this kind of theme for tonight is going to be about moving your ideas into production. Like I have a bunch of ideas for a game and then I want to start making that idea into something. So I guess the first question is, how do you decide what idea to pursue? This goes out to anybody.
Um, I guess I can
Yeah,
start just to
go.
break the ice. Um, yeah, it's a very tricky one, right? Because it really depends on it depends on if you want to build something for you, if you want to build something for others, if you want to build something as a hobby, or if you want to build it as a business, right? Because all those things really depend. Because if you want to build it as a business, not all ideas are good products. They may be great games, but they're not necessarily great products, right? Something that's marketable. But if you make something for yourself, or just for like, you don't care if it's successful, you don't care if it's not successful, you just want to take it out and you've got something in your brain, you want to put it out there, like, then you don't care if it's a good product. You just want to make it a great game, right? So I think all those aspects need to be taken into consideration. But like, if we assume you just want to make something fun for yourself, like, I think the thing you gotta battle the most is the blank page syndrome. Like, writers have it, TTT designers also have it, and like, one of the greatest way, I think, for designers to get started as quickly as possible, because usually like designers will have either like a mechanical idea or a setting idea, and those are usually like the 2 points from which a designer will like, well, at least I don't know for others, I'll speak for myself, but like, I either have a mechanical idea, like a good system or an interesting mechanic I want to play with, or an interesting setting on which I want to attach mechanics to it. And from there, it's like, well, what can I do to remove that blank page? Like, put that blank page away from me. Like, can I use a system reference documents of a great system out there to get me started? Can I take inspiration from good books and video games and movies to help me with my setting? Can I use templates? Like, there's some like amazing templates out there for like Word, Google Docs, like Canva, Affinity Publisher. You take all of those, and then you've got something you're able to work with. And being able to build off of the work of others is, I think, like one of the best way to go from an idea and being able to actually do the work and not be intimidated by that document you've just opened.
By that wall that's in front of you because you
Hmm.
have so much possibility.
Yeah.
No.
I wanted to kind of touch on the fact that you mentioned, is it something you're doing for money or something you're doing for yourself? And I think that plays so much into the pressure that you put upon yourself when you're creating. So as we go through this, I would kind of challenge everyone to, no matter whether you want to make money on it or not, to put the love and the joy first and foremost, and kind
Mhm,
of keep that as the motivation as you're going through.
mhm.
When you get stuck, you can always go to one of those tools that you mentioned to kind of get a little bit of inspiration.
Mhm.
Yeah. Not remove the soul out of the game just to be able to pay for food and rent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's a long process.
Mhm.
None of this is going to happen overnight.
Yeah.
So if you're doing it to make money and you need to make money, it's probably going to need to come from somewhere else,
Mm.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Andrea, did you want to jump in?
Y-
You
Yeah. Yeah.
just
Yeah.
taught
Yeah. Yeah.
a course on
Yeah.
this, didn't you?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I was just making sure that RP and both of you are finished with your thoughts. But I'll free to jump in like a regular conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree with everything that RP said. And for specifically in print and play games, in our team, we're a small team of 11 people from North Macedonia, and we, at least for now, we make tabletop RPGs mostly to create new relations with people. It's a way to get to know people. It's a way to interact with people in a very interesting way. All of us are players here as well, beside game designers. So for us, it's a way to interact, and our goal, let's say, besides making money out of it, because none of us yet is making our yeah full and only and one and only income out of it. It's always like a hobby for us that has turned into something much greater that we anticipated. But we when we make games, it's for a cause. It's for a greater cause, and that cause is to grow the community, create more TTRPGists, as I call them, in our own country, and of course outside, all over the world. And we're very open always to get together with people and introduce TTRPGs to them. And basically, the game design courses that I do are related with actually with making a game inside the TTRPG format as an icebreaker for getting into game design. Um, so how do we turn an idea into an actual game? That was the original question. I kind of went into an intro
Yes.
on that. Yeah. The Well, what we do is we take a yeah, we take something that we are very very passionate about. I'm working currently like with lots of people, but I'm working with a movie director. This also has become a friend through these past 2 years, and we said like, okay, when we were younger, the Alien movies really inspired us and affected us in wonderful and not so wonderful ways, of course. And we said like, okay, let's do like a micro RPG, like a one-page game about that. And we're both passionate about that. And having working with a movie director, writing comes very easy to him, and me taking that content and making it into a game, that comes easy to me, and also art This was before I broke my arm, of course. And yeah, we are like booked these days to finish that, and we'll see how it goes. But it's a really step by step. It's like a conversation. Okay, let's do something short together so we can first check if we click and we can make this thing together. Then we actually see what it's gonna be about, something that we both like. Okay, it's the alien movies, we like that, let's do that. And then actually going like confining ourselves, making like a confinement. That's very important for us, like, because as you said, Shannon, there's lots of opportunities and possibilities of what your game can cover. And then we say like, okay, let's confine ourselves into an A4 sheet. Let's really put ourselves in this confinement. And then we say like, okay, if we can make this sheet separated into 4 equal parts, then that would give us like 4 parts of our game. So we are also making a confinement for that. So not 5, not 6, but only 4. And then each of them has equal area of the sheet of paper that it can take, and that's it. It's like a confinement within a confinement within a confinement. And that's how we make sure, as RP also advised on our latest event, that it's important to finish something. It's important to finish your game. And if you make a good enough confinement that you're really focused and you know what you're doing and you finish it, then after you finish it, you can see, okay, is it good? Can we update it? Can we expand on it? Can we make an additional sheet of paper that expands the rules a little bit? But that's how we turn an idea into a game, by making it small, by making it simple, and very, very focused on what we are doing.
I love that. You basically created the visual to do instead of having a list and your check boxes. You created your space and decided where you needed to put things
Yeah,
to start breaking that down. I
yeah,
love it.
yeah.
I could see Jordan smiling away over there.
Oh,
That's
yeah, I mean, it's funny because I'm working on like an alien-esque
Yeah, great.
TTRPG right now.
That was great.
But yeah, I feel like I have the same thought with like making games. Is I always kind of focus on like one mechanic,
Hmm.
at least for creating like light stuff. Um I always just like kind of focus on one mechanic and then explore what that mechanic can do for the game
Hmm.
itself.
breaking down the small pieces.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Pandian Games commented, love that key advice, and it's perfect for new designers. You have to finish something. It doesn't have to be perfect. You learn from it for the next one. And
Yeah,
that's
Exactly.
you
it.
build
That
them.
Yeah.
perfectionism stops us from so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. That
So,
gave me a question of what drives you to finish a game.
mhm.
What's
RP.
I'd say it like if you're like a great way to be able to finish a game is to restrict yourself at a number of pages you actually want to put down. So like making something that's printable at home, like Andrea is suggesting, like it's usually you won't be able to. People don't necessarily have all the assets to be able to print and like buying a book and whatever all of home, right? So usually like you're gonna make a couple of pamphlets, trifolds, bifolds, and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So like to finish a game, if you restrict the number of pages, it's easy. At some point, you run out of space and you gotta delete stuff. You have too many things, right? So you start doing that cleanup, which otherwise, like very lengthy games don't do. So you like every single word count, and like you start designing into layout because like at some point starts stuff starts breaking up. So yeah, like to be able to finish a game, I'd say like for me, usually what I do is I I usually start my new games or my new ideas or whatever on a very small format, like a trifold or a bifold. That way, I can try things without scope creeping myself and like just
Mhm.
going into this rabbit hole I'm never gonna get out. But the other thing that I would recommend is talking about it. If you start talking about it on social media and whatnot, you start gathering hype and interest and all that, and then at some point people start talking about it and you're like, oh god, I need to finish it. Like there are people who are literally excited about it and are curious about it, and I've shared some screenshots, but like it's too late now. It's out in the wild. Like if you
It
I was
lives.
reading.
That's how
Yeah,
I do everything.
Yeah.
for real.
Yeah. Set a date on the calendar.
But-
Something.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Last Friday I had a play test of my RPG. I'm like, well, I guess I gotta make it so we can play
yeah,
test it.
yeah. Having playtest is another good one. It's like, okay, I gotta finish that new version of the character sheet because I'm playing tonight.
Yeah.
Exactly. While you're all talking about this, it's making me think of writing a novel versus
Oui.
a character limited post,
Oh,
right? You have to narrow it down, decide what's important, throw it out. You're constantly culling it and
yeah.
working through it, picking up those pieces and throwing them around.
Yeah, and you got to do that even with a bigger book as well. It's just that like
Sure.
you don't have necessarily the reflex to do so because you have so many pages. So you can just start like vomiting those words, but like got to do some cleanup.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
The workflow question as
Hmm.
you're, coming up with these ideas on kind of how to do it,
Hmm.
but you also have to kind of motivate yourself a little bit. So, like, what does that look like for you?
Hmm. Hmm.
I'll let Andrea go for this one. I answered the
Yeah.
previous one. So.
Thanks, RP. Well, if the geographical location allows it, I tend to do things in person. So if I met a person and surrounding yourself with people that are doing the same thing, the things that you like is very important in life, in anything really. So I try like, okay, you want to meet up? Let's do this. And then I see another thing is the availability of people. So as you as we all get older, the availability is smaller. And then I see who is older but still can give 8 hours to this. Who can do this? If she or he can do that, then we're gonna do it. Then I must do it also. And then a game will come out in 8 hours because we will gonna be focused and short, and we're gonna do a one-page thing, and then it's gonna happen. If the geographical proximity does not allow it, then we're gonna do it like this. And then again, we'll try to do 8 hours. Even though it's via camera, it will still work. And if we do it live, we can do like 2 steps. First, we do everything with pen and paper on that table over there, and we'll throw some dice and we'll see. Then the second part will open up Figma or Affinity and finish up there. We have a relatively okay printer here. We're gonna print it out, then continue throwing the dice again and again, and then that's it. Then we'll try to do 8 more hours if we're happy with the result. and then we have a game that we are ready to show to other people in the game development community here. And if that works out, normally we show it to the world. But in the end, it's important to show to students as well, and to show to people that this is still in 2024. It's possible that if you're a normal guy, yes, people will join you for a cup of coffee to talk, and if they yeah if they're not okay with going to more private locations like their home or your home, or if they're not comfortable with that, then that's okay. There are like official headquarters of the game development community. There are open cafes like co-working spaces and all of that, and you can go there and do the 8 hours there. So it's a very, very good workflow for a weekend. Yeah, how to make a game in a weekend.
Yeah, I have a retreat building in my head right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Thank you for giving me another thing on my list.
yeah,
I'm impressed by how much our workflows are different. Like I could never do game design for 8 hours in a straight day. Like I feel like
yeah.
my best ideas are me walking with my dog and sending myself voice messages like test this mechanics, hope it doesn't suck, and then like go back to my computer and test it out and like go do something else. Like I don't think I can focus on being in a room and designing something for like 8 hours, but like everyone's workflow is different. That's the beauty of it all,
Yeah,
right? Like if it works for you, that's amazing, but
yeah.
wow, I'm impressed.
Thanks, Harpy.
But that's it. It's so different for everyone,
Yeah, but I
which
mean,
I
RP's games are also the magnitude of his games and how big they are. Of course, it requires a different workflow, and yeah, my games I tend to do like the biggest thing that I'm planning to do and haven't done yet. It's 24 pages long, and those are 24 pages out of the A5 format. So yeah, it's a smaller. Uh, it's not the A4 pages.
it,
So sorry if I interrupted you, Shannon. Go, go.
no, you're fine. I just think
So
it's interesting the different not even the different, styles, but the different approach in how your brain
Yeah.
thinks about the process.
no,
Like you have a plan for 24 pages. My brain is like, what?
Yeah.
How? How? Like, I don't know what's going to come out of my head as I'm putting this down. It might
mhm,
be 17 pages. It's just an interesting dynamic of what different people need in terms of structure versus not. But yet,
mhm,
there are still some things that need to go together,
mhm.
right? You need to have some structure and
No,
organization, and there needs to be certain things that do have to happen in order to get point A to point Z
yeah,
Yeah,
for
so,
that to
so
come out.
some variables cannot be changed. Like for example, then you're not if you're making a book, the number of pages you have needs to be dividable by 4, or otherwise it's not going to
exactly,
work. Printers won't like it. They'll just say, "I
Yeah.
can't print your book. It just
exactly,
doesn't work."
Yeah. Well,
exactly.
Jordan's books, he's got that fourfold is going on for everything he's making over there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, all my books are like half pages. So like I just cut the page in half and
That
then
works.
fold them. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Um
Oh, it's
uh
Kitty.
yeah, it's cat active today. But what were you talking about? Yeah, so making I totally lost the train of thought from the cat
Yeah,
going
it was a different
off.
Well,
different
Oh,
workflow.
different. Yeah. So
yeah.
Yeah,
like for me with ideas and stuff that it feels like someone just like throws a rock at my head, and that's how ideas come in.
Yeah.
And they're just like, oh, I need to write this down now. And I'm just like doing the laundry or something like that, and then that's how
Yeah.
I get an idea. And so like I'll have like a list of ideas and game topics. Like my most recent one I'll share because it's really funny. It's a card game I'm calling Spicy Memory, and it's just like a memory game, but if you mess up you have to tell like a fact about yourself. But that just came off because Spicy Memory is also a meme. And fun fact, that's also how Good Soup was made. It was also a meme.
Oh,
I
that's
just
great.
like I just like good words together. Um, but yeah, so then I just jot it down, and now I have just like a list of ideas. Maybe just like usually in terms of a game, I think of a pitch of like what is the either the mood of the game, like this is going to be a memory game, or I want the players to feel the certain way when I make a game. Like with Good Soup, it's like, oh, I want people to feel like they're at like a potluck or something and just chatting with friends. That was kind of the mood of that game. So, but yeah, everybody has a different way of thinking about and working on games. Like how I describe how I work on a game is just like I'll sprinkle across a bunch of different projects all at once. I can't focus on like 8 hours straight on a thing. I'll just be jumping to like I'll be working on the art for this or like writing something for that game.
I'm in a similar boat as well. Like I did like 60 pages on a book, and then I was like, I'm gonna make this pamphlet today. Just like,
Yeah. And, and then another point is like, oh, I have to answer emails.
yeah.
And then do all this.
But it's true that the
Fun
mood is
stuff.
very important, right? It's gonna change the way that you write. It's gonna change
Right.
the way that like the kind of art that you'll want to put in the game, and even like your layout, right? Like if you want like if you have a game that's like a bit more cozy, a bit more comfortable, maybe a bit more relaxed and whatever, well, the layout is going to convey that as well, right? The words are going to be bigger. There's going to be more space. It's going to be less crammed, right? Versus like a game about dwarves stuck in caves in outer space, and you want like
Yeah.
something like
Just
Emily.
like
Oh,
yeah, I have it.
I
I
also
gave
have it.
it a
Wow.
read. Yeah.
It's so
but
good.
Yeah, I
you're
was really
very
amazed you were able to fit like 3 columns on one page. I'm like, wow, this is
Yeah.
it's
or
condensed.
two. Yeah, it's like this is packed or 2 columns a page, but still, it's still great.
If you want to see some condensed game, you should take a look at it. You've probably like already seen it, but like Mothership is
Oh,
so packed. That and like
yeah,
Mouse Ritter, those games are so packed in terms of content. It's
No.
impressive. But like
yeah,
versus
it's
something
so
that's like
good.
if you look at Iron Sworn, which is another beautiful game, solo game, and all of that, you look at the layout and so much more breathing room and
Mm,
time to
mm.
explain stuff versus like you look at Mothership, you're like, oh yeah, that I'm not gonna have fun, but it works with the game. It works with like works with the
Yeah.
tone.
Yeah, even small things like font. Font is a big thing,
Oh,
you
Yeah,
know?
love a good font.
Yeah.
so
Love a
important.
readable font too. Love it when I can read the fonts.
Yeah,
Like I
actually,
appreciate like sometimes or like there's Morkborg. I've seen some people who've done like branching off of Morkborg and just go even crazier with like splatter paint and
Yeah,
describing and stuff. And I'm like, I need a PDF, just simple word
yeah.
thing because I can't read
yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah.
I'd love to play this game.
I I recently read Pirate Borg, which is like
Oh
the
yeah,
pirate fork of Morkborg, but like I was able to finish Pirate Borg. I was never able to finish reading Morkborg in its format.
Yeah,
Like the
yeah,
Bareborn edition,
yeah,
I could, right? But
yeah.
Pirate Borg was more accessible because even though it was highly thematic, and yes, it was all over the place, and they were like beautiful fonts, beautiful layout, and beautiful art, but it was more digestible in terms of how the content was laid out versus
Yeah,
like
agree.
yeah,
Morkborg, which was so over the place. But again, it fits the theme.
right.
Yeah, Morgborg was you actually see that the people who are designing the book actually know how to design something once you reach the ending, because at one certain point there's the the paper of the book, the quality of the paper of the book changes once the adventure which is included inside Morgborg starts. So once you start reading the adventure, you're like going like, oh, okay, so these guys, so now inside the adventure they're actually showing us that they know a lot about design, but they deliberately made everything illegible before, and they even want a reward for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Because
love those
they
attention to detail items, though.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, no, they are the things that they are like proud of, that they use more than 100 fonts and
Yeah.
things like that.
Oh,
That
I
Oh,
love
for
that's
those
gonna
call
make me
outs.
go
yeah, so
crazy.
those things are like it's completely in the opposite direction of what design should be, and they still won an award for it, and yeah, and it still looks good. So that's the funny part. It when you read that, it feels you feel like unleashed, and you say like, okay, so if they could do this, then I can do this, and then it goes in very, very good directions in your brain.
But it's so impressive how
Yeah.
hard they went in terms of like
Yes.
we've talked
And
about themes
brave.
and mood before, but like the fact that there's a rule in the book that says when this happens, burn the book. Like,
Yes. Yes.
yes,
Yeah.
I'm here
Yeah.
for this. Like the person that
Yes.
Yeah.
took the time to write those words, I respect you. Like,
Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
it's
but
great.
I'll
Exactly.
never burn the book. It's
No,
too
never been
pretty.
the
Right?
book.
I love it.
That's also here in the background, by the way. Yeah. It was good.
All right,
So let's talk
so
about. Oh, go ahead. I was
oh,
going
what
to
were
change
you
the
gonna say?
subject.
Do it. I mean, same. But what subject are you changing to?
Well, I was going to flip it to when do you stop with the creation because you're on to something, but it's not flowing the way you want, or maybe it's not what you thought it was.
Yeah. When do
At
you
what point do you
shelf a
say
project?
no? Yeah.
For for me, it's
Go
usually
RP.
when I know that like the game has all the necessary parts to be able to be played without the player having questions. Like it's like, is there are the rules clear? Are there examples of play? Are there proper GM guidelines, player guidelines? Is there an adventure module in there? Like all of those things are basically bullet lists that even sometimes I I don't manage stuff. I don't have pre-made bullet lists for when I start. I just like um I just throw spaghetti at my screen until something sticks and then I forget. But like when you start sharing your game and people start asking questions during the playtesting phase or something like that, you automatically know what your game is missing.
Mm.
Like as soon as there's a question, like I'm personally not a big fan of feedback because like I think a game designer knows where they want their game to go. But I think the best kind of feedback you can give to a game designer is like asking questions or asking if like why is that working that way, or like I'm not sure I understand this, and like all those things are super important, I think, because they guide you in knowing what your game is lacking. And if it's not lacking anything and people don't ask questions anymore when they read the game, then you know that your job is done. Either that
Yeah.
or you don't have enough paper, with a bifle or trifle. We talked about that, but like this is a good indicator. But yeah, or you want to switch project. That's another gun. One we talked about like um having fun while doing it. If you're not having fun, then wrap it up. Go write something else. How about you, Andrea? What do you think?
Yeah. Um, it's both. Yeah. What you said, and the fun aspect of it is also very important. But we we kind of we stop even sometimes earlier if what the original purpose was, it's covering that purpose, it has
Mhm.
achieved the purpose. An example for that is um, on the latest event where I gave game design classes, there was like a homework for the students to make a one-page RPG and or a micro RPG or like like any mini type of text-based game. And I said like, okay, I'm gonna do one myself to help out students. We had like mentorship calls once per I mean every day for 1 week, every day for 1.5 hours, sometimes 2 hours. And I said like, okay, I'm gonna be in the shoes of a student myself. I'm gonna make something myself to help out the others. And I made like hobbits traveling in a caravan, going running away from the big folk wars because they don't want to be a part of it. They just want to. And I ended up making more like a traveling mechanic, and then I at a certain point I said like, okay, it's not important anymore if they are hobbits and they're running away from this and that. Like, it's important that this is a traveling mechanic, which then I realized is a subject that's going on in TTRPGs for already a long time, especially in D&D. People saying that traveling is boring, and then I ended up reading a lot about that. And then I said, okay, then I made something that actually serves the purpose. Is it a game? Definitely not. It's a mechanic that involves traveling, but can I release it in that way and just say that it's a mechanic? Yes, definitely yes.
I love
And
that whole
then
process,
yeah,
Yeah.
and
that
then
creation
I
process.
stopped. Yeah, then I stopped, and I'll return to it to make, once my arm is better, to make a normal art for it, because for the purposes of being fast and being more engaged with the students, I used AI for the first time in my life. I always use the human made logo, the one with
Yeah,
the
by
arm. Yeah,
Kodo. I love that.
Kodo. Yeah, voila.
Yeah.
So I always use that because we always make everything with our hands, and we will continue in that fashion. So yeah, I'll return to that and redo the arc and probably publish it as completely, like as we said before, like not caring if it will succeed or not. I just want it out there as something, yeah. And I will definitely release the games from my students, those that asked, hey, can we do it through you? And I said, yes, of course. And
That's so cool.
yeah, yeah. So that's when I stop. Is the purpose served? Does it serve the purpose that it was intended? Yes. Okay.
I think you should try creating art with your left hand.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good challenge. It
Yeah.
will it will look different.
Yep.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, I find with like if I'm gonna table a project, like I recently just like shelved my like I was gonna do a whole Kickstarter for a good soup thing, and it's just sometimes it's just a gut feeling where it's just like I just don't think this is this is at the right moment in time that I should release this. Or in other cases where I feel like if I'm trying to create mechanics to cover up the problems of other mechanics, where I just like it starts to get bloated with stuff, and that's definitely usually a sign for me where I'm like, okay, I need to either remove stuff and figure out what the base problem is, or just if I'm impatient, just put it aside, and I got other projects that I'm excited about.
Yeah. And you,
Yeah.
Shannon?
What was the question?
The question is, when do you stop with your creations?
I don't. They all live.
I'll keep going.
They all live
It's a
somewhere.
breathing thing.
Yeah, they live and they morph into other things.
Mm,
Like I had a TTRPG I was working on,
mhm,
RPG, and I had um, an Oracle deck I was working
mhm,
on,
mhm,
and neither one of them were feeling right.
mhm,
And I had an entirely new concept come in and basically grab a hold of those two and bring them in
mhm,
together and create this whole new thing. So now I'm currently developing a world and characters that revolve around a quest, essentially.
mhm.
Um, in fact, Jordan is working with me on this as well. Um, but it's at the beginning of stages, and I'm not ready to talk about it yet.
Okay, cool, cool.
So, because if I talk about it, then I have to get to the next stage. That's me. Like, as soon as I put it out there,
Mhm,
I need to finish that thing.
Mm.
And so I'm kind of letting it live and breathe. But I'll work on something, 20 years ago in a completely different fashion, and it'll morph into something else later. And I think that's how it is with creation in
Yeah,
general,
yep,
yeah.
because we're
I mean,
taking it
it
in
is.
from everywhere.
right. I mean, there's a difference from me saying when are you shelving a project, but then when are you throwing it away? It's like don't throw away your
Yes.
project. You just put it on the shelf for later, and
Yep.
then
Yeah.
when you're like stuck on an idea of like, what should I do? There's this little problem in this game, and then you look back on your shelf and you're like, oh, there's this mechanic I was kind of toying with, or this mood theme, whatever you want
Yeah.
in this game. I'm just gonna take a little bit of that and put that in there, and then that
Mhm,
can
mhm.
solve the problems.
One of my
I
favorite things is to pull up an old journal
mhm.
or a sketchbook and just kind of flip through it, and something in there goes with the
Well,
thing I'm working on now.
it will trigger something else.
Yeah.
I, I do that with layout documents. I have so many logos that I just design or like layout pages with like a bunch of lore, maybe some text, but like pretty layouts. And I'm just like sometimes I look at it, I'm like, I want to make a game, and that game's gonna be this setting, those mechanics, whatever. I wonder what the layout is gonna look like, and I pull one of those old files. It's like, oh, this is looking sharp. You did good work, RP, and then I'm just stealing from myself.
I love that.
It's really good.
That's amazing. So I just want to comment a little bit for anybody who's watching in. We're talking about a lot of different elements of game creation through this conversation. So, like layout, type, design, um, writing, the mechanics of the game. I think it can be overwhelming for people who don't know how to do all of those things. So I think all of us here do all of those things, right? We all can write, we all produce, we all can create art. Um, we're all familiar with layout. We've all published something. Not everybody has that. So
Mhm.
what do they do when they have part of that?
Yeah, I'd say like they gotta focus on what they have. Like everybody's got to start somewhere. Like I didn't know design. I didn't know game design. I didn't know layout. I'm a software engineer. I do web apps. That's my job.
Nice.
And when I got into game design, I started tinkering with an existing SRD. I was playing around with the Blades in the Dark SRD, which is fantastic. Love John Harper's work, but I didn't know layout. I didn't know game design. So I knew web apps, so I made a web app. I wrote everything in a markdown file, which is basically a
Love
fancy
that.
text file, and I made a website for it, and I hosted it and published it, and like this eventually became something else, something bigger that now hosts like 40 something SRDs from a bunch of different designers. But I originally created it only for me because it was my way of getting it out there and making it look not horrible, without me having to learn Affinity or InDesign or Photoshop or whatever. It's just like, I don't know any of this. I cannot start, but I want to finish this. And I want to write it. So like, if you're if you're good with something, use that. Don't rely on the skills you don't have. You're gonna learn those over time, but don't like, otherwise you just this mountain that's just unclimbable.
Right. Yeah, figure out what your skills are and then create a project that is based around your skill set
Yeah.
rather than like, oh, I want to do like this whole like I want my game to have watercolors. Say I say that. I'm like, I don't know how to watercolor. I guess
Yeah.
I'll have to start watercoloring. It's like, no, just do like good soup, everything's black and white cuz I
Yeah.
didn't feel like
Mm.
coloring anything in. And it's all
I
just me doodling in the margins of my books.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
No.
Um
There was a person in my Discord recently who took one of my old games and they wanted to tweak it and make like a different game with it, and they needed a new character sheet, but they knew pixel art. That's what they knew. So they made a character sheet using a pixel art software, and it looks phenomenal. And like,
I
but
love that.
this is like such a good example of like, I know how to do this, so I'm gonna do it this way. I'm gonna do it my way, and then it becomes like, it's more you, I think.
right.
Exactly. I would add here also maybe like find the friends that have the skills that you are missing.
Oh yeah.
So that's also very important. Like if you're good at drawing, for example, find a friend that can write, and then maybe both of you find a friend that can do the layout. And yeah, in time, those skills will overlap, and you will share the skill set with the other friends, and they will share it with you, and then you will create your own workflow in time, and that's how teams that make games are built and developed over time, and yeah, that's that's very important.
Yeah, it's true. And you start building contacts and relationships, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
Yes.
And that collaboration aspect, I think for me, is why I don't have finished products because I thrive on collaboration. So
Hmm.
just because I can do the things doesn't mean I want to do all the things,
Mm.
right? So it's finding that community that you
Yeah.
can partner up with and do different things.
Yeah, but and someone is not everyone is made on this planet to finish products. There are people made on this planet that enable other people to finish products, and maybe
Yes,
other people to form connections, and that's why we have wonderful Discord servers, and that's why we have wonderful people leading those Discord servers, and creating communities where people can just say, hey, I know how to draw, I want to draw for a TTRPG. Is there a TTRPG out there that I can draw for? Yes. And then someone will say, yes, you can draw for my TTRPG, and people do it for free between themselves, and then something nice will come out. So I also love the people who don't finish products but are just awesome connectors, and people how to say, getting people close. You know, that's a very important skill.
absolutely. Speaking of collaboration, you two have done some things together, right?
Mystical
You
things. Mystical.
mystical.
mystical things.
Yeah, we've bounced ideas back and forth and things like that. Though I will say, and that's just speaking for me, I'm such a lone wolf when it comes to game design in like in general. Like, I've tried to collaborate with folks in the past, and I have a really hard time just because of the way I work. Like, I'm not a focused person. I get things done, but when is really like a wild variable. Really depends on what I want to do, and sometimes I don't want to, and then like I end up disappointing my collaborators, and that's something that I cannot stand. I respect people, and I want them to respect me, and if I don't respect them, then I cannot expect them to respect. Anyway, you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's very hard for me to find like collaborators because of that. Like Andrea mentioned something about finding collaborators that complement you, and I think this is where I find my best collaborations. Like I have an artist that I work with. I'm a very poor drawer. Like I'm a music person, not a person that can make pretty illustrations. I can make pretty layouts, but not illustrations. And I found this great artist, and I work with him all the time because I cannot draw. And he's also a game designer, and he makes fantastic layouts, and he's incredible at writing. But like we're able to make this exchange of skills basically and complement one another, and then when we release something together, then it really comes as a whole, because like there's this collaboration process, but like it's it's the only person I've been able to do that with in years. So like, and Stoneburner is the result of this, the game that you showed earlier, like with a big skull in the book. Like it is a result of this. And before that game, I didn't know I could collaborate with anyone. So that was a nice surprise. But yeah, like we've talked a bit with Andrea, but I don't collaborate often with people for that reason.
Yeah. Um, so should I tell what we did? It's not. It was not a. It really isn't a type of collaboration. It's more like we were following RP's work for a long time, and we said like, okay, and we loved Songs and Sagas, and we said like, okay, let's make like a custom, um, yeah, like a VTT, like a virtual tabletop app, and let's just call him, and let's show him.
I
And
love
we did,
that.
and and this was very like, it's like you're a rapper and you're calling Eminem on the phone,
No.
and you don't, and you, yeah,
I
it's
love
like
the
that.
love.
Yeah, and it's like that, and you don't expect Eminem to pick up, and he picks up, and he's actually a very nice guy, and he was amazed of what we did, and yeah, we finished that in one form, and then we are still making it in another form, like let's say like a version 2 of what we started to do, and we're still doing that, and we will call him again and try to make the same effect that we had on him the previous time. And the best thing was like he was very supportive, and he never tried to take ownership of it. That was immediately where I said like, oh my God, this is like a very, and we were open with like, we said like with my friend Martin, like, okay, no matter what he says, we love this guy, we're gonna agree to it. And he never said anything bad. Like he said, no, 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 you made this, yeah, it was inspired from this, it is made for my game, but you made it. And he gave such a high level of respect. And from that day on, like, then we made our Kickstarter campaign in that same SRD for the Songs and Sagas. We made a game called Sword Wastelands of Arak, and it was a success on Kickstarter. And on the 20th of October, there will be a local event where it's going to be played and actually DM'd by people other than myself. And all of that is like crazy, crazy good. And it was all because RP was very open and very supportive. And yeah, like, and you can't, like, how do I say, like, some things like that you can't buy. That's that support of like having a very experienced game designer supporting you in what you do and pushing you forward with that support, that's something that really matters, you know.
Let me flip it around just for
Okay.
context. I'm
Okay.
this random person on the web who makes like I haven't designed game in like months. I made a Kickstarter, it went well, but now I'm in a slump. I've just had a baby and like I'm tired as well. It takes me like weeks, months to take an idea that I had in like October and then release it in like March or something, and it's a
Mm,
single sheet of paper,
mm,
double sided. I'm like, nobody's going to care. Like the game that I made, it was, it got the attention of some like people. It was successful. I don't think I can ever reproduce that. I released that game, and I've got this guy who sends me a message on Discord and tells me, I've made a VTT for the game you just released. I'm over there in my house flipping tables of happiness. I'm just like, this is what? And like we met a couple of weeks later. He showed us a second version of the VTT, and I bring the editor of Songs and Sagas and then the artist as well, and they were like, this is unreal. Because the thing is, like, if you play games that are inspired by Dungeons and Dragons, usually like there are VTTs out there that you can act to be able to play the games. Like, you roll a d20, you add some numbers, and then you try to beat that other number, whatever. But like Songs and Sagas is particular because it uses both dice and also cards, and the interaction between both those concepts is extremely important to the core of what makes this game, I think, special. So making a VTT for it is not a small feat because you gotta have cards, and then it's like, okay, you have a deck of cards, and then you can have some in your hands, but each player can have those, and then there's also like the cards that have been discarded that can be reshuffled back into the deck, and like all of this. And he just comes in and shows me this. I'm just like, this no, I disagree. This cannot be. I'll just close my computer and go away. But yeah, like it was like an amazing surprise, and not only that, it looked incredible. Let's be honest. Like the art, there was
It's so
sound
cool.
effects and music and all of that. It's like yeah, I should be the one throwing flowers to you, Andrea. Honestly.
thank you. Thank you. So it means a
This
lot
is amazing.
hearing this. Thank you. So it's, I don't know. I think it's better than a collaboration actually, because in a collaboration it's like, okay, let's talk percentages and things like that. This was like we made this from our hearts out of respect because we were making PC games for a long time and focused on something different. And then there was Galactic Omnivore, the local game dev community. And when I went there, I said like, okay, I made two PC games there, small ones, 2D, and I said like, no, I'm not gonna do the same thing again. Like let's go into different waters. I'm already 35. I've been doing this for 18 years. I want to do something else, you know. And then TTRPGs came along and just RP is always very modest, but when you like, if you try, I was a guy like who was new to this, and if you try to Google things and find things and see like, okay, I don't want to go to the mainstream things and play D&D because I've done that when I was 16 years old, and I have never returned to that and to many other games that I also played, the Star Wars role-playing game from that time and others. But now I wanted, like, I still have that indie game developer feeling, and I said like, okay, let's not go with Dungeons and Dragons because that's like I mean, everybody's doing that, and let's see what else is out there. And then there are two things out there. I mean, now I know that there are millions of things out there, but at that time, and that's why I always hype RP and his work, because when I started searching, okay, let's see what's out there and let's see who is doing something on social media. There was actually Morgborg and there was RP. And yeah, that's how it was for me. I'm just sharing my experience. Like maybe like there are many other things, but for me, when I say like, okay, let's see who are these people now and who makes these games, and those were the games that I bought. I bought Morgborg, and I played other RP games that I could download and I can play, and I bought Stoneburner. And in reality, when I started, I didn't have that many books in my home, and I haven't played a lot of games. But that's how I started. And yeah,
From the other side of the world,
Yeah,
which is so cool.
yes,
but it's that community aspect, I think, which is very precious too. I think
yes,
the indie community in particular is just like people are like you can reach to people and they'll usually answer. We're all in the same boat, and that's why I think like the big Twitter exodus happening has been so hurt, like so damaging for the community because now it's all spread everywhere. But it's like like
Mm.
we're, we want to stay close together because we like talking to one another and exchanging ideas and boosting. Like, remember the days of like the what was it like the rising tides like rises all boats like with the self promo Saturdays and all of that. It's just like it's yeah, and like that community aspect is gold.
yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. The Young King 45 says, I've always thought of RP as the Eminem of indie TTRPGs. So I think
Voila.
that's going to stick.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I'm gonna have to make T-shirts or something.
T-shirt.
Like it's gonna be the new slogan on the Fari RPGs website. It's just like the M&M of TTRPGs.
I love it. It's absolutely amazing. Jordan, we are running a little bit long. Do you have something specific that you want to drive us towards?
Um, I think ending it with like collaboration and supporting each other and indie devs, that's a great topic to end on. I think. Support your indie devs.
Support your indie devs. That's the T-shirt we should be
There you go.
making. Like, yeah.
No, exactly.
I love it. Well, why don't we take this moment for both of you to remind everyone who you are, what you're doing, and where they can find you. We'll have the Eminem of indie TTRPGs go first.
I'm RP. I run Fari RPGs. I don't know if I call myself the M&M of TTRPGs. I don't know if I compare myself to Morkborg, but whatever. I make games. I'm proud of them. You can find me on all social medias at RPDESHAIES or Fari RPGs, FARI RPGS. Sorry, it's always a bit tricky to get the letters in French and then translating them to English and then spelling them out loud. It's a process. But yeah, I make games. I make tutorials on YouTube. I'm very active on threads mostly. I love design, like sharing tips and like trying to reduce the barrier to entry to designing games because I think everybody should do it. It's just so fun. Um, little like, um, what's the word? Anyway, doesn't matter. We're currently running a game jam at the moment. If you want to get started in making your own game, there's the Songs and Sagas game jam. I'm gonna drop a link because yeah, you could just go in there and join me and Andrea and making cool games. They're free templates, free SRDs. You copy some words, you paste them in a document, you like change a couple of things, and you hit publish, and you're done, and you've learned. So that's it. I'm gonna drop a link. Have fun with this, and oh yeah, the message was deleted by the moderators. That makes sense, but
Oh,
all good. Doesn't like search for Songs and Sagas on the web. You're gonna find the jam. Andrea, your turn. I'm done.
Okay, I'm Andrea. I make TTRPGs in North Macedonia, in the team called Print and Play. We're a brand of 11 people, and we make one-page printable games. We make miniature games, dice rolling games, and everything that you can print in your home printer. You can find us on Print and Play Games on what was it called? The link tree. Yeah, we have a link tree. Should I mean, can
It's
I
already in
post
the
it in the
chat.
chat? It's already in the chat. Okay. So you can find all of our games there. We're also active on Threads. Mostly we are active on Instagram as well. Check out our successful Kickstarter campaign, Sword Wastelands of Arak, that you can buy now on itch.io. Check out our award-winning one-page game, Dump Squad, that won an award in 2023 for the best short, small, fun game. If you want to really have fun and laugh on your table while you're talking and rolling dice. Um, and yeah, if you wanna join on the workshops that we are having, normally once per week, go to Galactic Omnivore. That's too long for me to spell, but I can put a link in the chat, galacticomnivore.com. That's the North Macedonian community. There it is in the chat, where you can actually apply no matter where you are from the world for the workshops. Go into the Discord, come to the Print and Play Discord as well. And yeah, make TTRPGs. We're here to teach you how to make TTRPGs, make your own, grow the community, and yeah. And if you contact RP, he will pick up. And so will we. And so will Shannon and Jordan. And everyone who is an indie guy, who is a good guy.
True that.
Amazing.
Jordan, why don't you tell everybody what you have going on?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I run Goosepoop Games, so I make games as well. Recent released Good Soup, which is a wholesome GM-less RPG where you play as woodland creatures, gathering ingredients to make soup. You can find me on goosepoopgames.com, all the social medias under goosepoop207, and I'm always working on projects, and I love to chat with people, so please reach out and say hey.
I will.
Good. You should.
I will.
Thank you to everyone who hung out in the chat tonight. We appreciate you so much. As we've said a bunch of time, community is everything. So we appreciate you. Andrea, I appreciate you being here. What, 6 hours late?
Yeah, it's 2:15 in the morning here.
Wow.
We so appreciate you.
No problem.
A true hero.
A true hero. Yes. RP, thank you so much. We appreciate you. And we will see you soon. Have a good night, everybody.